Alright, I'm going to walk you through the steps on how to make the orthographic projection for this multi-view drawing. And so I'm going to again walk you through the steps on how to create these different views. For most things, you'll need a maximum of 3 views, and so those views that we typically draw are the front view, the top view, and the right side view. Many things will only need 2 views, but most things you can be completely described in those 3 views. And so you typically do not draw all 6 views. You just draw the views you need to describe the object. So if we're looking at our part here, here's the model of it that we're going to be creating. When making the multi-view, you always want to start out by creating the front view first. And so I'm going to come down here somewhere on my paper, and I will put a dot to represent that where we're going to start that front view. So I'm going to put my dot right here, and so this is going to be the bottom corner of that front view. So this is the view that we're going to be drawing. If I go ahead and sketch in that view, I'm going to make it in the height dimension 5 spaces high. 1, 2, 3, 4, one more. 5 spaces high right there. From there, we're going to draw this point. So we're going to go over 2 spaces for that. It goes down to this point right here. That's down 3 spaces. And then it goes out another 5 spaces. So I'll sketch that in roughly. And that is basically the front view for the object. There's a couple of hidden lines we will have to add in, but first we'll go ahead and sketch in the top view. So if we look at the top view of this object right here, we're going to start the top view right here, so we're going to put 2 lines in between it. So in the width dimension, or in the width, or in the front view, you have 2 types of dimensions, width and height. So right here, width and height. In the top view, you have width again, but now you have depth. And so I'm going to be drawing in the depth view now. So the depth of this object is 5 boxes. So that will be the overall depth of it. Sketch that in. I know that I need to have something represented right here because I have that point on my front view. If I look at my top view, I now have this thing right here, so this little cutout. So I'm going to go into boxes, and I'll just put a line right there. So what we're doing is kind of drawing some construction lines, and then I have the overall width of the object. So I can sketch in that line. So when I drew that front view, I sketched in these rough lines, and that means something should be represented in the front view for them. So if I look at this line right here that represents this point in the front view should be a hidden line. So I'm going to go ahead and darken in a hidden line where it lines up with that line there. And I'm going to go ahead and darken in the outside object lines of that front view. Okay, and so from there we can see some of the other details that we have to put in for this top view. One is this cutout right here, and so if I come over 2 blocks, I need to put a dot, and it comes back to that hidden line. So that should be a line we put in right there and right there. We also have these features we need to put in for the little cutouts on top of the object. So those come in right here, and they are object lines, and so I'll put a line in there, a line right there for that. And then we can go ahead and darken in what the top view of this object would look like. So what we have now, again, are construction lines. We need to darken in the top view would actually look like with object lines. So there's our top view. And I kind of erased some of those construction lines that got a little bit dark. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a miter angle, a miter line, so that we can project over the right side view. And so I put a point right here where the height and the width meet, and I'm just going to draw a line at 45 degrees, and so it's cutting through that object. And if I project all of these lines over, and I stop them at that miter line, we can then create, this is called an orthographic projection, and so we're projecting these lines over this way, and then if I bring them all down over here, so I'm drawing all those projection lines straight down now, it's going to actually create the right side view for us. So I have all of those lines projected down. Now I'm going to project over the height lines. That I need. All right, now from these lines I can then create, again, that right side view. And so if I look at the right side view of the actual object, that's what it looks like. So I just drew in that bottom line. Now we can sketch in these lines here. So we just drew this shape, and that shape. From there, goes back to these lines, and we're going to draw those straight up to the top point. We have to go over, and then there's a little cutout, so we have to go down one block. Okay, down one block. And we're done with the right side view. Now, if we look at this, one way to check your multi-view drawings is to go through and make sure you have a line that represents everything. And so if I look at the height dimensions here, I have a line that represents where they start. I move my way up. I have a line on both sides there. I move my way up. I have a line right here on my right side view, but I don't have it represented in my front view. So that line should be represented with a hidden line in the front view. So I'll do that. And I'll go on up, and I have all of those lines represented. I can do the same thing with width. The dimension runs from left to right in the front view. I'll start here and move over. I have a line represented. I have a line represented. I have a line represented at each of those points. Now we've already done that with our miter line on our right side view. So anywhere that there was a depth dimension or a depth line, we put that in to our miter line. And so this would be the finished multi-view drawing for this part. Understand that the views need to line up, and that you should try to make it as neat as you possibly can. You can draw construction lines, but make sure your object lines are darker than your construction lines.